So as you can see, we had trouble getting the tiny house trailer in position. It's a 32-foot trailer, and when you're gonna go big like we're going, that has problems to go with it, especially when we wanted to fit it in an area where we had foliage all around to get some separation between us and the road and the house. You know, when you're trying to back a trailer into a tiny position like that, it can be very difficult. Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Grid Tiny House. We're on day one of our 50-day challenge. If you want to see what that's all about, check out our intro video. On our last video, we went through our trailer, we talked about where we got it and why we bought that particular trailer. This episode, we're gonna talk about how to prep the trailer and get it ready to build a house on top. Let's take a quick overview on what we hope to accomplish today. Here we have our trailer, and the first step will be to install the anchor bolts. Anchor bolts are basically large screws that will attach the trailer to the sill plates. You'll learn more about sill plates in our next episode, but for now, just understand that they are part of the tiny house floor that sits on top of the trailer. The positioning of these anchor bolts is crucial to ensuring the house is securely and firmly attached to the trailer. Building codes require anchor bolts to be placed within a foot of each end of each sill plate and be no more than 6 feet apart. Even though we don't have to worry about building codes and inspections with our tiny house, they exist for a reason, and we will be sticking pretty closely to them. Unfortunately, we're also limited on our placement of the anchor bolts by the frame of the trailer, so we can't just place them anywhere like you can when you're building a house on top of concrete. We're further limited on our placement of anchor bolts by our rim joists. Now, we'll talk about rim joists in more detail in our next episode, but for now, just know they're these pieces of lumber sticking up right here. So you can see how I'm placing the anchor bolts so that they go through the frame of the trailer, don't come up at the same place as the rim joist attaches, yet are within a foot of each end of each sill plate and as close to every 6 feet as I could. Second thing we hope to accomplish today is attaching flashing across the bottom of the trailer. Now, flashing is just a metal sheet that comes in a roll and is just slightly thicker than the metal on an aluminum can. We are actually using aluminum because it stands up well against the salty coastal air we have here at our building location. The flashing will ensure that moisture, insects, and rodents can't make their way through the bottom of the trailer into the floor of the tiny house. The last thing we'll do today is install jacks on the trailer to level it out and properly support it. The wheels of the trailer are built for transporting it, not for supporting it for long periods of time. The jacks will perform this job much more efficiently than the wheels. To get the right size jacks, you need to calculate a rough estimate of the weight of the building materials you're using. So I've estimated our tiny house to be around 16,000 pounds, but that doesn't account for weight imbalances in the house from one side to the other. The kitchen has countertops and refrigerator. That stuff weighs a lot. So, you know, it's not a consistent 16,000 pounds. Plus there's people moving around. So I threw in a little cushion and bought 4 jacks with each of them able to support 7,000 pounds. So 4 of them could support 28,000 pounds. Once you've taken the time to decide where you will place your anchor bolts, installing them is very simple. I needed extra long anchor bolts for some parts of the trailer frame that were extra thick. So I just bought some 3-foot long, 1/2-inch stainless steel threaded rods and cut them into 1-foot lengths using an angle grinder. We'll be using a 9/16" drill bit, just slightly larger than the 1/2-inch anchor bolts. The trailer framing is hollow in the middle, so you want to drill through both the top and the bottom of it. Sometimes I was able to do both the top and the bottom from the top. Other times I had to get down and drill up from the bottom. Hey guys, I spend my time and money making these videos for you because I want to give you the confidence and knowledge for you to build your own tiny house. In return, I'd really appreciate it if you could pause this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and visit our Patreon page. Your support ensures that you'll see more awesome videos like this one. If you do start building your own tiny house, you can use the links in the description below to purchase your tools and supplies, and that also helps out the channel. To install the flashing, I just unrolled it and laid it down in place, then drilled holes for number 6 sheet metal screws. Now the steel of the trailer turned out to be too thick for the sheet metal screws, so I ended up using rivets instead. To use a riveter, first drill a hole just slightly larger than the rivet. For us, that was 1/8 inch. Now it's important to use a drill bit meant to be used on metal. Next, place the rivet into the hole and use the riveter to set it in place. I overlapped each sheet of aluminum flashing and then used foil tape to seal the overlaps. This will eliminate any cracks between the sheets for moisture or insects to work their way into the floor of the house. It's very important to press down hard on the tape to ensure a solid connection to the flashing. You can use stainless steel instead of aluminum if you choose, but just make sure to use the same material for your rivets as flashing because certain metals can react with each other and cause corrosion. To level the trailer, I had to dig out a little on one side and create a mound on the other side since we're building on a bit of a slope. I compacted the dirt using a hand compactor and placed a paver block down to make a nice solid base for each jack. Then I used a level and adjusted the screws of the jack until the trailer was level on all sides. I want to take a minute each episode to tell you about some of the roadblocks I faced and how I overcame them. No matter how skilled and experienced you are, mistakes and oversights are inevitable. And I want to make sure that if you decide to build your own tiny house, you're prepared for these setbacks and you're able to overcome them. Don't get down on yourself. In this episode, I had originally planned to use sheet metal screws. I had ordered them and was ready to go, but I quickly realized that the trailer metal was too thick to hold them. The metal was also too thick for my drill bits and I was breaking a bunch of them. I had to stop what I was doing, take a step back, and figure out a better plan. I decided to drive to the hardware store, buy some rivets, and fasten the flashing with aluminum rivets instead. It ended up working much better. I had to go to the store again when I realized that I either misplaced one roll of flashing or Home Depot shorted me when they delivered it. I hadn't checked the delivery when I received it, so I hadn't noticed it was missing until I needed it. The combination of these two things set me back a day, and that was frustrating, but you'll face frustrations like these all the time when you build. I'm going to tell you about every mistake I make because if you decide to build your own tiny house, I want you to be prepared to face the frustrations and don't get down on yourself and start thinking that you aren't capable of building a tiny house. Anyone who is passionate about it and resilient enough to work past their mistakes can do it. In our next episode, we will be building the subfloor framing of the tiny house. The subfloor is the plywood that supports the finished flooring that we will walk on inside the house. And the subfloor framing is the wood skeleton that supports the subfloor. I hope you can all join me on the next episode as I build the subfloor framing.